So, what is a brand? The definition from the dictionary has branding as the promotion of a particular product or company by means of advertising or distinctive design. Put simply, we need to, through our branding, educate the customer to see, understand, and want to seize the advantage that we have to offer. That's the advantage that we have to offer over that of our competitors. Let's take a look at some big global brands. Marketing consultancy firm Interbrand compiled an annual list of the world's best brands. Coca-Cola, as you would imagine, was the leading brand, valued at $66.6 billion US. That's the brand value itself. In a Reader's Digest poll of the most trusted brands, the common comment that came out was, the most important thing to a customer is a brand being true to its promise. Some brands are continually there to retain our confidence, whereas over years, some just don't seem to do it. Branding is about building an emotional tie to our customers. Have a look at the following brands and see which of these you can identify with personally. As you can see, you really need to start communicating the same passion that you have with your brand to your customers, so in the end they feel the same way about the brand as you do. You have to remember that you're not selling a product or a service, you're selling a benefit or a result. You in fact have to become the Panadol for your client's headache, solving their problems and their needs. Peter Drucker puts it in this comment, business, because its function is to create and sustain a customer, only has two purposes, marketing and innovation. Marketing and innovation are the only two functions that build a business and sustain paying revenue. Everything else is an expense. So what makes a brand? Your brand is much more than just a pretty picture or a clever icon. Your brand is much more than just a name. Your brand is not just a corporate color or a powerful phrase or USP, a unique selling proposition. Your brand is the total experience of dealing with your business. True branding stimulates all five senses that we all have. For example, let's take a look at Toyota and their total customer experience. When you're buying a new car, for example, the TV ads, the smart showroom, and those polished cars on display give you that visual appeal. Next, the salesman comes up to you and opens the windows of the car so you can lean in and smell the new car scent and that leather interior. So there's the smell. He opens the door, lets you sit inside so you can touch the steering wheel and feel the leather interior. So that's the touch. The salesman then says, well, let me start the engine for you so you can have a listen to the beautiful purring sound of the V6 motor. So as he starts up the engine, there's the sound. And then finally, you're thinking, how much is all this going to cost? And the salesman says, well, look, let's come over here, sit down, have a coffee and a biscuit, and we'll discuss the options, and there's your taste. So the five senses of the Toyota experience. So what makes a good positioning statement? Well, here's 8 positioning statements for well-known brands. See how many you can actually remember. Large companies employ a brand manager in-house to build and sustain their brand, whereas small to medium-sized businesses can outsource these services by coming to Brand Manager, the creative solutions company. At Brand Manager, we create brands. Whether you're a startup or an existing company looking to reposition yourself, because trends change every 5 to 10 years, you should also refresh your brand and your brand image. When we look at branding, we look at the brand color. Subliminal meanings of color can mean a lot to the customer. Your name and font and how they look together, your positioning statement and how these all compare with that of your competitors. At Brand Manager, we're all about building brands as well. Building a brand is all about consistency. It's like we call the Coca-Cola principle. You don't expect to travel around the world and see different shades of red or even a blue Coca-Cola logo. They're all the same Coca-Cola red. Your brand has to remain constant across all mediums. So at Brand Manager, we look at how your brand will be displayed on signage, in marketing materials, online and offline, on TV, radio, and even in print. Here's an example of Frio Machinery. The logo, as you can see, across their complete range of machinery was over 20 years old and looking just a little bit tired. We began by conducting customer surveys, both online and on the phone. We did an intense one-day workshop with all the key personnel. We changed the name to Frio Group Limited, freshened up the brand without too much deviation from the existing 20-year-old logo, and then we created a positioning statement. We then looked at the divisional brands so that they all linked the parts of the company together. And then finally, we took the new branding into marketing materials and the website, creating an important document called the Style Guide, so that wherever the logo was displayed, it would be displayed in the correct colors, correct typeface, and positioning. At Brand Manager, we also promote brands. Advertising is the vehicle to promoting and growing your brand. Through print ads, media advertising, online marketing, etc., building the brand's message stronger and bolder. Interbrand's global CEO, Jez Frampton, for example, says the increasing complexities of the global economy reinforce the importance of protecting and growing your brand. Brands that continued, for example, to advertise through World War II eventually became the market leaders when the war was over. So it's important to maintain your branding and your marketing. Locally, Brand Manager works with clients like Rooty Hill RSL to produce and print a regular bi-monthly 36-page magazine called The Courier. We also look at branding outside of the traditional means. We look at signage, we look at stationery, right down to the business card. We shoot and edit corporate videos, and we coordinate innovative direct mail campaigns. And more importantly, we do all this by helping our clients to think outside of the square and be a little creative. Being creative is now the only true innovation left in marketing today. We tend to remember the things that are different and just block out those that conform. Being creative can also save you lots of time and money. Here's an example of the Sydney Swans. The AFL was coming to town in New South Wales and obviously brought about the birth of the Sydney Swans, the AFL team for Sydney. The problem was that in New South Wales, Sydney was a rugby town, so AFL wasn't that popular. The future of the team depended on getting people to the game. So they identified that the target market was the under-18s, as these were the group that were going to grow up, have families, and obviously become the long-term followers of, hopefully, the Sydney Swans. They also did some investigation and some research and found that music was the common denominator. So with all that information, they went to see a large advertising agency. And they said to the advertising agency, well, what can you do for us? The advertising agency said, well, look, $500,000 should cover it. It'll take us about 3 years, but we expect that we'd be able to reach 30% of the under-18 market who will become familiar with the Sydney Swans. Unfortunately, they needed a quicker and cheaper result, so they decided to make one of the players a recording star. They started by taking headshots of all the players and got teenagers to vote on their sexiest player. Out of all the players, there came one clear winner, and that was Warwick Capper. They recorded a song and a video of Warwick and put him in white shorts, 2 sizes too small for him. And because he was a singing footballer, which had never been heard before, they got publicity, lots of publicity. The songs were played at discos and the video on TV. And the results? Well, if you remember, the agency said $500,000, 3 years and a 30% reach. The new creative approach reached 80% of the under-18s. It took just 8 weeks to accomplish. And the cost? Well, there wasn't any. In fact, they made profits on the sale of all the records that they had out. So just by being a little creative can really pay some big dividends. Brand Manager, the creative solutions company. We're here to help you think outside the square.